Hi there, my name is Amelia and welcome to my channel. I'm an autistic college student and I made this channel to spread awareness about ASD along with other comorbid conditions and talk about my experience of being diagnosed as an adult. If you've seen my last video, you would have known by now that food issues were one of the main reasons I sought help, which led to a diagnosis of high-functioning autism. I kind of wanted to explain my experience with autistic picky eating and how that autistic picky eating led me to develop a eating disorder. Many autistic people experience sensitivity when it comes to the tastes, smells, and sights of food. This overstimulation is caused by hardwired differences in how autistic people interpret stimuli. Every autistic person has varying degrees of difficulty when it comes to sensory differences. Some people have issues with food, some people don't. However, in some instances, individuals with ASD may develop a condition known as ARFID. ARFID stands for Avoidant/Restrictive Food Intake Disorder, and I know that's a mouthful, so bear with me. ARFID can lead to nutritional deficiencies in childhood and adulthood, failure to gain weight, and hospitalization in more severe cases. Some people may believe those with ARFID are simply looking for attention, but I promise that is certainly not the case. ARFID is a legitimate eating disorder that causes significant stress both emotionally and physically for the person that suffers from it. It is most common in children, however, in rare cases, it can persist into adulthood. It is unknown how many adults suffer from ARFID, considering that it was only added to the DSM-5, which is like the diagnostic manual for all mental illnesses and conditions, in around 2013. So it's not really known to non-specialists, so it's not uncommon to find a psychiatrist that doesn't even know what ARFID is. For people with ARFID, it is very important they have the ability to seek help if needed, because in more severe cases, ARFID can certainly become dangerous. It is similar to anorexia. However, in anorexia, there's more of a concern for body image and weight, whereas in ARFID, that is completely ignored. It is mainly to do with anxiety, or it can be based in sensory problems, like it is in my case, or it can be something else entirely. Although eating disorders are common in autistic people, being autistic does not mean that you will develop ARFID, and same thing as if you have ARFID, that doesn't necessarily mean you are autistic. ARFID can actually be rooted in many different things, ranging from anxiety to OCD to even trauma surrounding food. My experience is just one of the many ways that ARFID and sensory sensitivities manifests in autistic people. Okay, so anyways, my story. I suppose to start, when I was a baby, I was actually able to eat a way larger variety of foods than I am now. I had no troubles eating fruits or vegetables. However, when I turned around 4 or 5, I found myself struggling when it came to eating fruits, vegetables, meats, excluding chicken, and most other foods my family prepared, because I realized that I was not able to handle the textures, the smells, and the tastes of them. If it wasn't an issue of taste or smell, it was that I was unable to swallow the food without feeling an uncontrollable urge to choke or gag. I noticed I spent way more time chewing these foods than anyone else did, and it brought me a lot of anxiety trying to reject whole meals or hide food in napkins from my family. I only ate a handful of meals too, which typically consisted of high carb and fatty foods. In being autistic and having texture sensitivity, many of the foods I eat are very bland or plain. So no added spices, no condiments, nothing like that. And they also tend to be very homogeneous and pretty boring. Many people with ARFID and or sensory sensitivities sometimes avoid foods that are non-homogeneous, like nut bread or salad, because they find difficulty in eating them. My safe foods had remained relatively unchanged until I actually recently got help. My most reliable safe foods include things like pizza, bread, pasta, cereal, potatoes, protein bars, grilled cheese, yogurt, like milk, dairy products are okay for me, rice, and most sweets. The consistency of things like cake is just like perfect. This isn't a complete list, but it definitely gives, I hope it gives an idea of what my preferences are like. I'll also include a list, probably right here on screen, of some of the things I am able to eat versus what I'm not able to eat. And you will see that what I'm not able to eat heavily outweighs what I am. Anyways, in grade school, my lunches were probably really unusual to my classmates. I vividly remember in first grade only eating either a sandwich of bread and butter every day for lunch or mac and cheese every day for lunch. And eventually in fourth grade, I actually stopped eating lunch altogether. And that persisted throughout several other grades growing up. I just would avoid eating around others, or I just wouldn't eat in general. I had mentioned my poor relationship with food to my pediatrician several years during my time as an adolescent in their practice. I also was borderline underweight in my teenage years, and my doctor had raised concerns about anorexia. However, I always denied it because I was never restricting my diet intentionally with the goal of losing weight. I just wasn't eating correctly, and I didn't really know how to describe that, but I tried to, and nothing really came of it. I was just told to eat baby food and drink protein shakes to get any vitamins I was missing, any fruits and vegetables that I wasn't getting in my diet, which obviously was like none. By that time, I wasn't diagnosed with ASD, so my pediatrician probably wasn't suspecting that this was a sensory issue, causing me anxiety both in and out of school. Growing up, I did avoid places and events surrounding food. I wouldn't go to birthday parties, I would avoid holiday dinners with family, and I would also avoid going out with friends, mainly because I had negative experiences with people not understanding or respecting my issues in regards to eating. I ate separate meals from my family, which definitely became a bother, and I felt really bad doing it. I never wanted that to happen. I was also really preoccupied with brands of food because minor differences in taste could make the difference between whether I'm able to stomach something or not. I also ate usually the same like 5 foods for dinner, especially, which happened for a large portion of my life. My sensory reactions to foods can be very exaggerated at times just because of how my brain interprets sensory input. It's almost as if my brain forces my body to reject foods because the sensory input from these foods is too intense. For example, cantaloupe specifically tastes like vomit to me, and the texture is too strong, so it's something I'm heavily averted to. Same thing goes for carbonated drinks. I will not touch carbonated drinks because the fizziness hurts my mouth to the point I avoid them. These are just 2 small examples, but similar trends occur across the board and through entire food groups. I would argue that my eating problems stem from autism because they are indicative of a sensory processing issue. In my case, ARFID explains the severity of these sensory issues, how these sensory issues impact a specific part of my life, which is eating. Today, my selective eating definitely still persists, but I do now have the support of a nutritionist and a doctor specifically for disordered eating. I've been getting a lot of work done to expose myself to more textures and foods and expand my palate, with the help of my nutritionist, of course. But sometimes it definitely comes with difficulty. In order to get my required nutrients and vitamins daily, I typically use the safe foods I listed earlier in this video, but I create healthier alternatives alongside daily vitamins. For example, instead of regular just wheat-based pasta, I will use a chickpea alternative that is heavy in protein to at least get more protein into my diet. Another example would be to take silken tofu, really random, I know, but put that into tomato soup, and it's almost indistinguishable in terms of texture, so it adds a really good protein source without any extra work, really. For my fruits and vegetables, about 90% of the time I would say they're blended into smoothies. usually with like yogurt or something pretty basic. However, it makes me able to eat them then, because otherwise the texture is way too intense. For the other like 10% of the time, I will usually chop like apples or pears into really thin slices, because that makes me able to eat them a little better too. It especially sucks because I love the flavors of these fruits, especially like apples and oranges specifically. However, it's only the texture of them that averts me to them and gives me a really bad reaction, which sucks. I don't really know like what to do about that. It's pretty upsetting sometimes, but only until now have I actually been able to get a grasp on this issue, and I feel so much more thankful for being able to get work on this in terms of expanding my palate, because I'm definitely still anxious about the potential of future health issues caused by my reliance on unhealthy food, especially in my childhood. I hope all of this was easy to follow. I just wanted to give a brief rundown of my, I guess some of the challenges I faced with ASD and food sensitivities and like sensory issues. I'm hoping this reaches other people who also experience similar things. If you also have this problem, again, feel free to leave a comment, ask any questions you may have. I'd love to answer. But again, just a reminder, I am not a doctor. This is purely my personal experience. So again, if you are concerned you may have ARFID or need help for sensory sensitivities, I recommend checking the links in my description for this video. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!